there is an entire body of knowledge here trying to figure out why men aren't getting laid.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that, I mean, that definitely sort of is, at least to me, a very charitable, probably one of the more charitable,
Hugely flattering, yeah.
interpretations I've
It's a
seen.
backhanded
Uh,
way of
yeah.
doing it, yeah.
Right, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of guys out there who are struggling. I know guys like this who aren't doing so well in terms of dating, in terms of jobs. They're not where they want to be, and yeah, they're struggling. And I don't think guys like you or anything like tying women up or anything like that. In terms of keeping them out of the dating pool. But I do think there are some challenges right now, simply because the modern world is there's a mismatch between our sort of innate desires and the way that the modern world is set up, such that, there aren't as many men in college and women tend to prefer educated men, but, men aren't going to college and, people are wondering why that is. There aren't as many, men who are earning, in terms of the millennial generation, I believe that women are earning as much and in some cases even more than millennial men. Um, at least in the UK, I read this.
So you got
So
better
yeah,
educated, richer
yeah,
women.
yes. So women are better educated and richer, which again is, there's nothing wrong with that. But if they're looking for male partners, they're going to look for men who are also better educated and richer, and preferably even more educated and richer than themselves.
It's
So this
been
was,
every woman
some,
is now becoming the tall friend, right? They're becoming the tall friend who can only date basketball players and like pro
oh,
sports
interesting.
guys, because and
Yeah.
the converse of that is really, really bad for both men and women, which is
Hmm.
the alternative. If women tend to date up and across, or their preference is to date up and across to richer and or better educated men, and there are fewer of those men around, there's two choices left, which is both genders get to remain single for the rest of their life, or women get into relationships with men that they're fundamentally unattracted to.
Which is also not ideal,
Terrible.
right? I
Terrible,
mean,
man.
well, there's also the other option would be uh, women can essentially share a man, right?
Hmm.
So some people have speculated that this is what's basically going on in these gender imbalanced communities like universities and colleges where there's a surplus of women relative to men. Men are much more likely to play the field, so to speak. They're more reluctant to settle down, more interested in casual sex, and so on. And in colleges where there are more men than women, there's actually more relationships, more emotional commitment, and more of a dating culture. And some people find this surprising, but it's really not, because in these colleges with more men, men are basically competing to get a girlfriend,
Hmm.
and women on average tend to prefer courtship, commitment, relationships, and so on. And in environments where there are more women than men, women basically have to compete for the small pool of men. And what do men like? Well, men on average tend to like more casual situations, more short-term relationships, one-night stands, things that are more casual. And so women are more likely to do those things to try to get men to like them. So,
They've got to play each other's game, right? When
right,
men are
exactly.
the surplus rather than the scarcity, they have to play women's game, and when women are the surplus rather than the scarcity, they have to play men's game.
Right. Yeah, and we're seeing a kind of inversion. I mean, I think in the past when men had more education than women, maybe it was maybe monogamy was easier in some ways, simply because if men or if yeah if women prefer dating men who are educated and have high earnings and so on relative to themselves, then yeah, I think maybe it was easier back then in some ways. And today, when things are sort of flipped and they're reversed now, where women have more education and so on than men, it becomes harder. And so some people have suggested that polygamy or some variation of that will arise.
Yeah.